What's happening, everybody? This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Delta Leaf Labs. Because when you use the plant DNA sex testing kit from Delta Leaf Labs, you're going to save time because you get to find out 4 times sooner what your plant is going to be, a male or a female. And because you find out sooner, you're going to save money on lights. If you're growing indoors, you're going to save money on nutrients because you don't have to just keep feeding that plant that you're wondering, well, what the hell is it going to be? That's why that DNA testing kit is so great. And they make it really easy to take a sample from your plant. So go over to deltaleaflabs.com and order your plant testing kits today. And at checkout, use coupon code IMGS10 to get 10% off. Now let's talk a little bit about raw CBD. What is it? Well, raw CBD is basically CBD that hasn't been decarboxylated or heated up when it's being processed. And because of that, raw CBD oil is a more complete, more full spectrum CBD oil. And that's the main thing that puts 101cbd.org above and beyond any CBD product that I've found on the market. I really do enjoy their products. I use them. I give some to my dog. So go over to 101cbd.org, take a look at their products, and pick yourself up some CBD oil. And at checkout, use coupon code IMGS25 to get 25% off of that order. Now I also want you to save this date, November 9th, 2019. Yes, I know it's a few months away, that's why I said save the date, get up, go mark the calendar. Here's why, because on Saturday, November 9th, that's when the Ventura County Health and Wellness CBD Expo is going to happen. And they're going to have free health screenings, talks, presentations, and workshops about CBD, along with workshops about mindfulness, stress, and immunity. And they're also going to have a bunch of different vendors of CBD products. And as the date gets closer, I'll have more details about who's going to be there and who's going to be speaking. But for now, just put that in your head. Saturday, November 9th, 2019, that is going to be the Health and Wellness CBD Expo. All right, now let's get started. Well, brothers and sisters, welcome once again to the In My Grow Show, the podcast dedicated to taking the mystery out of cannabis. I'm your host, Alex, and I want to thank you for taking the time to show up and listen. This is show number 70. A little later, I'm going to be talking to QGrows, and he's going to be talking about what happened between Cannabuzz, the cannabis social media app, and the Google Play Store. But before that, let's go on to the strain of the week. And actually, I don't have a strain of the week, but I do want to talk about something. I've been noticing a lot of moths and butterflies flying around in my garden outside. So you know what that means. Once you see a lot of moths and butterflies flying around, it's pretty possible that caterpillars are on their way, because caterpillars do hatch from those small little moth eggs. It doesn't matter what garden you're in, whether vegetable or cannabis. So as a preventative measure to those little caterpillars, I'm going to go down to my local insectary. I go down to Rincon Vitova down in Ventura. You can find them at rinconvitova.com. I'm going to go over there, pick up some trichogramma, which are these little like predatory wasps. They don't hurt people, they just hurt caterpillars. Well, mostly they hurt the moth eggs. Anyways, I'm going to go get some trichogramma. I'm also going to go pick up some green lacewing eggs as well, because I do have a slight white fly problem, which I'm sure the green lacewings are going to love to take care of for me. So if you're growing outside or in a greenhouse and you spot a lot of moth activity, as a preventative, I would go get some trichogramma wasps or do something, because those caterpillars are on their way. Know this. So I was on Instagram yesterday, and I was over at the Pot Brothers at Law Instagram feed. I love their page, man. They post up a lot of good stuff. And they put up a headline to an article that read, Dairy Queen worker says she was sacked after making marijuana-themed cake due to manager's mistake. Yeah, it's kind of a funny story, but it's also kind of a messed up story, all right? It's a little bit of both. The funny part of the story is that the manager of a Dairy Queen over at Milledgeville, Georgia, took an order over the phone for a themed cake. Now, the person ordering the cake wanted Moana on it. The manager heard marijuana. Okay, so they went ahead and made the cake. And the article says, the green and white cake was decorated with a marijuana leaf and a green My Little Pony character who appears to be smoking with heavily bloodshot eyes. And that's a pretty funny sight. It's a pretty funny picture. There's a link in the show notes so you could read this article. And I found it over at The Independent. And it was written by Maya Oppenheim. All right, now that's the funny part, okay, was the fact that they got it messed up and I mean, the lady was ordering the cake for her 25-year-old daughter, so I mean, I don't feel that bad. The person was an adult that she was getting it for. So, I mean, it'd be more fucked up if it was like a 13-year-old kid. Then it'd be like, oh, that's a really bad one. But since the person was older, it's a lot more funny. The messed up part is that the cake decorator, a lady by the name of Cassandra Walker, she wound up getting fired because she was the one that made the cake. She didn't take the order. She wasn't the manager. She was the one that just made it. Here in the article that's quoting Cassandra Walker is saying, the manager stood behind me while I pulled the image off the internet. She walked by as I decorated the cake and as I boxed the cake up. She was the one who walked it up to the front. So, yeah, they wound up firing the cake decorator because she made the cake even though it had nothing to do with her. She was just, doing what she was told to do. The article does go on to say that she was later offered her job back by a different manager but turned down the offer. So go over to the show notes and check out the article, man. The picture's pretty funny. I just wanted to share that little bit of social media humor. Also, I want you guys to know that at that CBD Expo that I mentioned, the In My Grow Show will be there. We will be recording. We will be possibly, I'm pretty sure we're going to be doing some kind of live feed or live stream there as well. Now, I know it's a few months away, but when you go there and you see us, come by and say hello. So now for the report from the Cannabis Front Line, I want to talk about something that I've been reading a lot in the headlines and the news, and that is using CBD to treat addiction. And I wasn't sure how true this was when I first read about it, or at least when I first heard about it. So I've been doing a little looking around on the internet, and I found an article over that Hello MD that really helped me kind of solidify the idea or make it more clear to myself about how CBD can help addiction. And there is a link in the show notes for this if you want to go over and click on the link. And the title of the article is called CBD's Effects on Curbing Cravings and Addictions. And it was written by Jean McKinney. Now I'm going to read quite a bit of this of what she wrote, because like I said, it really made it clear to me about what's going on with addiction and CBD. It starts off, a recent study published in the Journal of Frontiers in Psychology suggests that cannabis compound cannabidiol, CBD, could help break the cycle of addiction thanks to the effects on the brain's pathways of pleasure, reward, and learning. Many substances can cause severe physical dependency and even death, but behaviors can too be addictive. Just about any activity that disrupts a person's life and relationships can be considered an addiction. Because addiction can have both physical and psychological aspects, the people experiencing addiction in many different ways find effective treatments can be challenging. Recent research shows that addiction of various kinds are driven by compulsion, a complex circuit of responses that involve the brain's mechanisms for pleasure, learning, and problem solving. When the brain receives any kind of input that is perceived as pleasure, it releases a surge of dopamine, one of a group of neurotransmitters called feel-good chemicals. In response to the spike in dopamine, an area of the brain called the hippocampus stores a memory of the pleasant event. Then another brain region called the amygdala encodes a response to that stimuli, signaling whether to repeat the experience. For example, if a person drinks alcohol and likes it, the memory of that pleasure moment can lead to them drinking again. But in addiction, other brain chemicals affect the pleasure memory loop. Addictive substances cause a much more intense surge of dopamine than normal. That dopamine interacts with glutamate, an abundant neurotransmitter associated with learning and motivation. This adds another component of the pleasure pathway, the drive to repeat whatever action produced the surge of dopamine. This leads to compulsion, the urge to repeat the pleasurable action again and again, even in the face of negative consequences. Over time, the brain's pathways can become distorted and overwritten with compulsive patterns, so that stopping the substance or behavior creates a psychological stress. Many substances also hijack the body's normal processes, so that stopping the drug causes serious physical symptoms of withdrawal. But many of the processes that create conditions for addiction are driven by the endocannabinoid system, the ECS. And this is why CBD can intervene to break the cycles that lead to addiction. The ECS plays a major role in regulating many essential subsystems in the brain and body. Natural cannabinoids, cannabinoids from marijuana, plus cannabinoids from other plant sources can activate the ECS receptors. And ECS receptors are found on cells throughout the body and brain. Cannabinoid receptors are abundant in the midbrain, home of the pleasure-reward learning circuits that can also drive addiction. This explains why cannabis can calm anxiety and ease the symptoms of depression. It also explains why THC can cause a pleasant, relaxing high. And because CBD can affect not only these receptors, but also other processes that modulate addiction response, research suggests that this cannabis compound could be an effective treatment for addiction to a wide range of substances including opioids, nicotine, alcohol, prescription drugs such as benzodiazepines. Although the researchers reported in the Frontiers of Psychiatry aren't entirely sure how it happens, CBD appears to reduce the cravings of an addictive substance and blocks the development of new memories related to the positive experience with the substance. CBD has a moderate effect on the endocannabinoid receptor CB1, which plays a role in the development of addictive behaviors. But CBD also seems to act on the system that produces dopamine and serotonin, another feel-good chemical. CBD can also protect against the effects of high levels of glutamate, an excitatory neurotransmitter that boosts compulsions and cravings. And it can also support the production of natural cannabinoid anandamide, which produces positive, calming feelings. All of these effects combine to disrupt the pleasure-reward memory loop involved in driving addictive behavior. Alright, now, but can CBD help with opioid and alcohol addiction? Well, here's what the article says about that also. Opioid drugs, which include both illegal street drugs like heroin and prescription pain medication, pose a special challenge. The body and brain have a system of opioid receptors too, and these receptors respond quickly and intensely to these drugs. But opioid receptors also exist alongside natural cannabinoid receptors. This means that CBD may be especially useful in treating opioid addiction and the withdrawal systems that these drugs can cause. Some research also suggests that CBD can be useful in treating alcohol addiction as well as limiting the damage alcohol can do to the brain and liver. So far, research on CBD for addiction issues has been limited, and researchers acknowledge that more work is needed to be done. But now studies are documenting the benefits of the cannabis compound in relieving the symptoms of many health conditions, including those that are caused by substance addiction. In addition, CBD works with the body's own system. This means that it can be a safer, more effective way to help address addictions of all kinds. And like I said, this was probably the most clearest explanation that I've found as far as how CBD could help with addiction. So go over to the show notes and click on the article and read the whole thing. There's also a couple of links in the show notes to the studies that they talked about in the article. So check it out when you get a chance. Alright, now coming up, I've got a conversation that I recorded with QGrows, who's one of the masterminds that helped put together the social media app Cannabuzz. If you haven't heard of it, go over to the Play Store, download it, see what it's about. It's, like I said, a social media app, but it's for cannabis. You know, Instagram and Facebook have been shutting down cannabis accounts all over the place for no reason, or they just won't put up posts. You don't have that problem over at Cannabuzz. Okay, and a couple of weeks ago, Google didn't like what Cannabuzz was doing or was confused about what they were doing, and they ended up pulling them off of the Play Store. So you couldn't download the app anymore from the Google Play Store. I mean, you can do it now. They've got it all straightened out, and it's all good. You can go over there and, download it on your Android phone. But QGrows was cool enough to come on the show and talk to me about what happened to that misunderstanding and also what's coming up for Cannabuzz. So hang tight. I'm going to play a little bit of music, and then I'm going to have that conversation for you. So check it out, everybody. Today, I'm really lucky to have on the phone with me. And I've said that before, but today I really do feel lucky to have on the phone with me somebody that I consider to be a cannabis warrior, because lately he's been putting himself out there for the cannabis community, for you, for me, for cannabis itself. He's one of the masterminds behind the social media app Cannabuzz. QGrows. Brother, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I've had the app for about maybe a month, and it's, I love it, man. Everything on there, it's all just cannabis related. So yeah, it's a great platform. So thank you, because I know, like I said, you're one of the masterminds that put it together. Who else helped you put it together? Who else is part of this? Sure,
yeah. So Cannabuzz, for listeners, it's a cannabis social network. Essentially, it's very similar to like an Instagram, but it's for weed, and you're allowed to post weed content. You don't have to worry about your posts being taken down or something like that just because you're posting cannabis content. So we launched just after 420 this year, 2019. So it's now mid-July. So we've been out for I guess almost 3 months now. And we just passed about 6,000 users, 6,000 members. And it's not just me that's behind Cannabuzz. It's somewhat of like a group effort, I could really say, so on the Cannabuzz company side, there's myself and my partner, business partner, JR Token is his name. He's
JR Token
is
like
a member.
DGC JR Token?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow, far out,
JR
man.
Token is I actually kind of met him, or I did meet him through the QGrows show, where we met each other about, I guess now, 8 months ago. We met at the Emerald Cup last year in December, at the QGrows booth, and he got to talk to me and kind of heard my personal background, and he hit me up after the show and said, "Hey, I've been wanting to, I think someone should create like an Instagram for cannabis," because, he was so frustrated with people taking down stuff, Instagram taking down posts all the time, and YouTube is doing the same. So, and by that time I had already been thinking about I had a similar idea essentially. So I kind of that was kind of the sign to me that I should try to make this happen, where before I'd been thinking about it for a few months, I knew someone needed to do this, that Instagram wasn't changing their policies. They're still taking down content, from big brands and from, small Instagrammers as well. No one seems to be untouched for the most part. And I was pretty frustrated by that. So that's one half of the team, Cannabuzz. And then we actually were teamed up with a company called Honeycomb, and Honeycomb, which is Honey, COMMB. They're the ones who make the platform. So they're, the founder of that company is a friend of mine, excuse me, named Sean, and Sean runs Honeycomb, and their backstory is they created this app platform and originally made the app for Lady Gaga, and Lady Gaga has a gigantic community of 100,000+ people called the Little Monsters, and they had their own social network. And then Sean, they built this and they wanted to open it up to other people so other people could have their social networks. And they've done it with sports teams and colleges and stuff. And I got in touch with them in January of this year, 2019, and he was interested. And, a few months later, we launched Cannabuzz. So it's a group effort where we are, JR and I own Cannabuzz and we run it. And, we own the name and all that kind of stuff. And Sean's company provides essentially the technology to help us make it happen.
Brother, that's awesome, man. I mean, fucking shout out to everybody involved, man. What you guys put together, I think it's great, man. Because I mean, have you ever had your account shut down on Instagram?
I haven't had my account shut down, but I have had posts taken down. So it was actually kind of funny because I went to Denver, a couple months ago in April. I went to Denver for the QGrows Cup. And while I was there, one of my posts was taken down from Instagram, and it was just kind of ironic to me because I was there to help kind of try to put out the word for Cannabuzz. But yeah, it's stuff that doesn't even make sense. That video in particular was literally just me in my backyard talking about how I wanted to find. I was asking people what were the best dispensaries in Colorado or in Denver, I think is what it was. And that got taken down. And so that's just an example of how it's not really clear. When you get your stuff taken down, it's really not clear why it was taken down. And it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of rhyme or reason. People's dabbing, it seems in particular, Instagram doesn't like videos of people doing dabs and some other things, or rosin pressing, kind of some weird stuff. It seems if it looks closer to more what they must think are quote unquote hard drugs or something, maybe they're more scared of it. I don't know. But it's just it's playing that game is just so frustrating as a content creator. It's really frustrating when you're trying to connect with your audience and your stuff gets taken down and you have no recourse. You're powerless essentially.
Especially if there aren't any guidelines that, that they're telling you why it was taken down.
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
like, we don't want it. So now let's fast forward a little bit to, what was it, the day after the 4th of July, July 5th?
It was, it must have been a couple days after. I should pull up a calendar, but essentially it was like July 6th or something. And I got an email on Sunday morning at, I guess it was the afternoon. It was 12:21 in the afternoon. I got an email from Google.
And Google, and what basically said, so what did Google tell you? What did they say in that email?
Yeah, so the email essentially, and I screenshotted it and posted it up on the Cannabuzz Instagram account, which is at @getcannabuzz. But anyways, it essentially said, we have taken down your app, and because you violated this rule, and the rule essentially said you cannot facilitate the sales of marijuana products, whether they're illegal or legal. I think it says regardless of legality. And then it goes on to say you also cannot encourage excessive use of alcohol or tobacco. So this was some rule that they have. And they included a screenshot in the email that was of the app. And it was one of their moderators or whoever these people are at Android, Google that review this kind of stuff. And what they did is they had clicked a link that was posted by a breeder on our platform, Mass Medical Strains. He's a breeder from Massachusetts. He had posted a link to a seed store, and this person had tapped on that link, and the app opens that up inside of a browser window. But the window kind of looks like our app. And so it looks like what happened is that moderator thought that we were basically just selling cannabis seeds directly through our app. Rather, what was actually happening, which was, that person tapped a link and it was just opening up in a browser window, just like, when you're on Instagram and you tap a New York Times article, it opens up within Facebook, So
yeah, it gets a third party something or other.
Yeah, it just opens up within a browser window that's rendered within the app. So anyways, that was what we first saw, and I guess one thing that was an indicator to me that there was probably some sort of, or at least some sort of potential for misunderstanding, was that the text on the page when the moderator tapped the sales link, the text on the page was translated into Indonesian. So that just showed me this person, English isn't their first language. They may not be reading some of these words incorrectly. Because if you're essentially Google translating your browser window, certain words like shopping and buy now or whatever, I don't know. Some of those things might seem confusing. So, anyways, when I ended up we got that email, and so the app is down, and basically I called up JR immediately and let him know what was going on, and just let him know I don't know what we're going to do, but I'm going to have to figure it out. And at first it seemed like what they were really telling us was that we couldn't allow anyone to promote any sort of cannabis products regardless of legality. And that was something that really struck at the core of us, because, we've created Cannabuzz. Part of the reason why we created it is out of a frustration of any sort of small business to be able to create a brand and advertise themselves online in the cannabis space. It's extremely hard to do. It's hard for any cannabis business, but especially as a small cannabis business, because you don't have access to capital, and you also don't have advertising channels like Facebook, for example, or like Instagram, where all of your potential customers are. And so we created Cannabis to be a place for those people, for those breeders, for the CBD companies, and for farmers, all kinds of folks. And so, anyways, when we first got that email and read it, at first it was just a great way to kind of I guess, push us to look at our values and what the reasons why we started the company, and like what was important to us and what we were willing to change or sacrifice. Because, you know, we could get rid of those things in an attempt to, you know, get back onto the store if that's what we had to do. But we weren't willing to take that steps. And that's what, you know, I put out a video to the community and told them that if that's what Android is telling us, that we cannot allow people to promote their products and even just linking to their websites. I was telling the community then we're just not going to be on the Android App Store. We would publish the app some other way. That was kind of, it was a very interesting few days, that all this kind of happened. And, you know, you have to, like I said, it was a chance for us to really kind of examine, and be pushed to stand up for what we believe in, I guess.
Yeah, it sounds like it, man. And good for you, man. Good for everybody. Good for all of you guys for doing
that.
Thank you very much.
I mean, like,
because
the end of the story.
I mean, you do, because
Oops, sorry, go ahead.
It would just become something. It seems like it would just become something other than what you guys wanted. It's fucking great, man. Like, good for you guys.
Yeah. We want Cannabuzz to be authentic and to the cannabis community, and one that, you know, enables it. And we didn't want to have to sacrifice that. That's why we're, you know, an independent company. We didn't, Cannabuzz, we've not raised venture capital money or anything like that. I didn't want to have to be beholden to folks like that, so that we could make decisions that in other businesses, you know, if you were to make the decision, if we change our community policies, we can get back up on the Android App Store. But if we don't change our community policies, we cannot be on the Android App Store. Most businesses, you know, with investors would say, okay, we're going to have to change our community policies because the opportunity of being on the App Store is too huge to pass that up, basically. But with us and, you know, us just being for cannabis and, you know, the way we structured the company, we don't have to make those sorts of sacrifices. And so, you know, I was glad that we could stick to our guns. And in the end, it turned out to be just a misunderstanding, essentially, where, you know, they thought that we were selling seeds directly through the app, and I explained that we weren't. And within a couple of days, they got back to me and said that the appeal was accepted and that we had to resubmit the app. And then as of Friday afternoon, we were back up on the Android Google Play Store. So, you know, basically from Sunday to Friday, we were able to wrap it all up.
So did it go back up unchanged?
Yeah, unchanged. Yeah, I mean, it's the Honeycomb team was actually going to submit a new version of the app anyways, just to, you know, some changes that they had made to the app, but nothing that, you know, based on anything that happened here. It was just a normal thing that they were going to do. So yeah, we didn't have to change anything in the app. I have not changed any sort of policies or anything like that. So
those few days that it was down, though, were people still able to get the app from the website or from, I don't know, is it up on the Apple Store?
Yeah, you could get it on iTunes, but you just couldn't get the Android app. On Android, you can host what's called the APK file. It's the app file for Android. If, you know, what would have happened is if Android would have ultimately said, no, actually, it's not this like browser thing. It's like this, that we're just not okay with the promotion of cannabis products. If that had actually been their policy, then we would have probably just linked directly to that APK file, like off of our website. But for those few days, if you had already had Cannabuzz on your Android phone, you were fine. You just wouldn't have been able to download it from the Android App Store.
So does that give you guys a little bit of caution as far as like actually wanting to set up something on the website where in case fucking something like this happens again, it isn't a hiccup?
I mean, at the very least, we now know what our like options are, you know? We now know like what are the things that we have to go through. I mean, for now, we'll just kind of continue forward with the App Store links and everything. To your point, you know, we've learned now like what we need to do. So if and when this happens again, which I hope it doesn't, but if it does, then we'll know, okay, yeah, we'll just put that APK link up there and, you know, do what we have to do.
Yeah, I'm glad it got straightened out though. That's awesome. So can you tell me, are there any new features coming up on the app then? Yeah,
there are some things that I know the development team is talking about, and they're looking at refining. So there's a handful of some cool and interesting features in the app. One of the cool things is groups. So there's a concept of groups in the app where you can I've created groups for states in the United States that have cannabis programs, and for some other countries as well, actually, Australia and the UK. So you could join some, or in Canada as well, actually, created for all the territories or the states there. So you could join a locality-based group, but we also have groups for growers. So if you're like an organic grower, or or lights, we have lighting groups. So anyways, that's a feature that's something that's cool, and it has some cool elements in there, but could be made better and improved. And that's something that I know the team wants to visit at some point. In general, just like the app, we want to eventually improve the experience when it comes to posting content, posting photos, live streaming. We have live streaming, but we don't have chat integrated into the live stream. So at some point we want to be able to hook that up there. And there's also some other interesting things that I know Honeycomb is considering, where like in this, when you're doing something like this, a niche social network like this, it's not an Instagram or a Facebook or whatever. There's some interesting questions that come up, and one of them is like, well, how could we make money? And so I know one of the things that Honeycomb is thinking about is like, are there ways that the community could support the company or the app? You know, like I know when we actually a couple months ago when we started Cannabuzz, people were asking us if we had a Patreon, and I've actually been following Patreon ever since it started, because I know Jack Conti, the founder of Patreon, because I live in the Bay Area, the San Francisco Bay Area, and I ran into Jack before he created Patreon. So I've been following it, and I think that's a great model, and I think ability for communities to be able to support their favorite artists or podcasters, or in this case, an app, I think that's a really cool idea. So I think they'll probably end up experimenting at something in that direction. I don't know what it'll look like, but yeah, I can't give you any sort of definitive dates on some of these things, but I know that those are some of the overall concepts that I know they're looking at right now, and trying to figure out, you know, when they want to do what and how it'll all end up working out.
Oh, yeah, no worries, man. I just kind of put you on the spot about it.
Yeah, it's all
good. You know, just wondered, man.
Yeah.
Hey, so speaking of your, I want to talk about your Cannabuzz feed, bro.
Okay.
Because the garden in the background that you're always showing, man, that looks beautiful, brother. It's all looks sun-grown. Is that sun-grown outside? What do you got, greenhouses or?
Yeah, thanks, man. That's where I'm kind of hanging out right now. Yeah, and it's just, you know, I bought a house last year in the North Bay. Luckily, it has a decent backyard, and it had a good spot that gets a good amount of sun. And so my fiance was cool with me carving out my spot in the backyard, and I built I think it's like 10 by 13 greenhouse that I built earlier this year. And right now I've got 11 plants growing in it. I do use some supplemental lighting. I actually, at that QGrows cup, I won a Spectrum King SK602, which is like a 600 watt light, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty sweet light, and it's waterproof. Spectrum King, their lights are essentially waterproof.
Yeah, Spectrum King's lights are waterproof, man.
Yeah, so I just have it hooked up in my backyard, and I don't have to worry about anything. You know, it does not that it really rains in California for most of the year, anyways. But you know, I just don't have to worry about.
No, you
get
a lot of. But you get a lot of moisture up because you said you're up in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Yeah, you still get a lot of moisture in the morning.
Yeah.
But either way, man, no, that SK is fucking perfect for it.
Yeah, it does a good job. Like for right now, especially because of the way my, like the shadows from my neighbors' yards and whatnot. I need light during certain parts of the year to make sure that they don't go into flower, because that's actually what happened a couple of months ago. Is the first set of plants that I started out with, they all went into flower like late April. So no. I had to kill them all and basically start over. but it was cool. Like, it was a learning experience, and that's been one of the cool things about with Cannabuzz is, like, I stream it up there and I get good comments. Actually, a lot of good comments from JR from Cannabuzz. He gives me a lot of good suggestions, but I've also received a lot of other good suggestions on how I could do this, because I've grown like 2 auto flowers outside before, but other than that, I've never grown anything outside. And now I'm trying to grow a decent amount of plants outside, and they're pretty, 2 of them in particular, I've had them, they've been vegging now for probably close to 3 months. So they're pretty big. But the rest of them, they're probably like a month and a half old. So they're not too big,
Oh, wow.
But I'm excited to see what they end up looking like this September. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a fun time. You can have a trim party. Invite all your friends over.
I know. I'm thinking about I don't know if it's like sacrilegious, and sorry for the ice cream truck in the background. But
No, it's a nice touch.
I don't know if it's sacrilegious, but I've been thinking about getting one of those trim bags. Have you thought about getting one of those?
Nah, I still do it the old-fashioned way. I'll need, at the max for me personally, I do about 6 plants.
Yeah.
That's about, I can handle that. But 11, yeah, especially if you're by yourself. Yeah, like I said, you just might as well fucking build a little shed and hide in there for 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm excited, and what's been really cool, part of what I'm really excited about with this set of plants that I'm growing, about half of them are CBD plants. And what's been amazing with legalization, and also with, me personally getting more involved in cannabis and talking about it more and more with people in my lives, is discovering the people in my life, or even the pets in my life, that can benefit from cannabis. And so I'm really excited to have a lot of CBD flower that I'm going to have this fall that I can use to help create, CBD for my sister and my mom and my dog. I have an older dog, and we give her CBD for her back. And it's really amazing to me. I'm really excited to be able to grow something that I not just grow for myself, so that I don't have to go buy California weed, which, by the way, like right before I had this call, I was at a dispensary and seeing like most of the eights up on the board costing $60. It's just
Isn't
like
that fucking nuts, man?
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. So
And-
it's like, and I've not been in a dispensary buying eights for the last couple of months, because I've been thankfully smoking my own homegrown stuff.
Isn't that a great feeling, though, too? Isn't that a great feeling when you have those jars at home and you just open them up?
Exactly.
Like, fuck it.
Yeah, totally. And not have to, like, I want to be able to, like, and this is what I explain to people, like, I want to be able to, the way I use cannabis, I use cannabis recreationally and medically, but in terms of medicinally, cannabis really helps me with anxiety and depression. And so I use cannabis throughout the day. Like, there's times where you need it to get through the morning or the afternoon when you're frustrated at work. And then, I love cannabis at the end of the day too. And so if you want to be able to consume cannabis throughout the day and really use it to help you throughout your life and whatever, you're going to be smoking like an eighth a day or even more in some cases, depending obviously how much you smoke. And you can't really do that when eighths are $60 a piece, but plus
no,
tax.
man, that's it's just a trip, man. Especially like you said, if you are like a patient that needs the medicine. Yeah, how do you even afford that? Because it's not like it's covered. It's not covered by insurance.
Right.
It's all out of pocket. Yeah, it's just craziness, man.
Yeah, so that's what I love about growing, and that's what makes me so excited about being able to have stuff that I can share and share the power of this plant with other people. I'm really excited and looking forward to the future when more and more people accept this plant and realize that it's not what the 80s drug war wanted you to think.
Yeah, no kidding, man. That's true. Hey, so let me take you back to your CBD plants, man. Are those like hemp CBD plants? Are you growing hemp, or are you growing the drug cannabis version with just a heavy CBD profile?
Yeah, they're just heavy CBD profiles. I think they both have THC in them, THC over 0.3. So it's technically not hemp if I guess.
Right. Yeah.
You
No,
know,
perfect.
but anyway, so the two plants, one of them is a project that a YouTuber slash breeder slash Instagrammer is his name is Doggo the Hut. He has a YouTube channel called, or he does the GrowTube Roundtable on YouTube. So he made a strain that I believe is some sort of hybrid of like Ringo's Gift or one of those like, or Charlotte's Web or something like that. One of those CBD strains. His cross is called Molten Core because that's a video game reference. So so that's his. I'm growing a few of his. I got his seeds actually at the Dude Grows Cup. And then the main, or like, I guess the big CBD plant that I'm really excited about is called the Willie G CBD. And Willie G is, you can look him up on Instagram. His Instagram handle is at Gratefully Dabbed, like gratefully, like the Grateful Dead, Gratefully Dabbed.
Okay.
And so he distributes his seeds through, I think it's the Humboldt Seed Organization. And I always mix up Humboldt Seed Company and Seed Organization. Anyways, you can actually get Willie G CBD on Seeds Here Now if you look it up. And what it is it's a Lebanese strain that I believe it was his brother came back from Africa. He had this plant that ended up being a keeper. And so Willie, he's a guy who has, I can't remember what illness he has. I think it might be cerebral palsy, but I could be wrong. Sorry if I am. But anyways, he's growing this medicine to help him. And so he's sharing this like strain that he, has found to be, I guess, super awesome. And so I think it's probably like a 2-to-1 or something like that, maybe a 3-to-1. I'm very curious to see what it will be like, because it's supposed to have a ton of CBD and not that much THC, but it's also it's a plant that's not really been bred out a lot, so there is probably going to be a decent amount of genetic variability. I've only got one of them because I ended up having to kill my other plants, so I've got 2 Willie G's, but one's just a clone of the other. So I'll only get to see, I guess, what this phenotype is like. But yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm excited. I was actually just talking to my fiance. She was asking me how I would figure out how much CBD is in it, and I was telling her I would go to Steep Hill Labs. They're up here. They're down in Berkeley in the East Bay, and so I can just go down there, and I think you pay them like $50 or whatever, and they'll give you a quick test.
Yeah, that'd be cool to find out what that comes out to, man.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Hey, QGrows, brother, I want to thank you for getting on the phone with me, man, and talking to me, and telling us about everything going on with Cannabuzz, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm happy to connect with folks, and I appreciate people hearing us out and giving us a shot. It's independent social network in 2019 isn't super common. There's not that many people trying to compete out in that space because a lot of people are just on Instagram and YouTube. But I really feel like now going into 2020 and whatnot, and with cannabis legalization, I think it all kind of adds up to a great time to start something new and kind of create our own awesome community out there on the internet, but also, on our phones, obviously. And so we can connect about this plant and this medicine that means so much to us.
Absolutely, man. So do me a favor. Let everybody know how they can find you on all kinds of social media, and how they can get the Cannabuzz app also.
Sure. So you can check out Cannabuzz at cannabuzz.app. So our name is CANNABUZZ, and just go to cannabuzz.app in your browser, or you can search Cannabuzz on iTunes or on the Google Play Store, and you'll find us. And you can follow me on Instagram and on Cannabuzz as QGrows, all one word. So the letter Q and Grows. And give me a shout out, and thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Hey, do me a favor. Don't go anywhere. All right, don't hang up.
Yeah.
Everybody else, I'm going to be right back. Well, brothers and sisters, like I said, go over to the Google Play Store or to iTunes and get the Cannabuzz app, and then come celebrate cannabis with us. Come on, everybody. Let's go have a conversation freely about cannabis. And again, I want to thank QGrows for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate that. And if you have a question or a comment about this episode, send an email to inmygrow@gmail.com, or just find us on Instagram @inmygrow, or find me on Cannabuzz. That is just Alex Robles. Why don't you do that? Find me on Cannabuzz. Well, everybody, that's it. That's all I've got for you today, man. Now, don't forget, if this episode has educated you, entertained you, or even given you a little escape from your day, go over to patreon.com/inmygrowshow and leave a donation. Now, if you don't want to leave a donation over there at Patreon, you can also go to inmygrow.com, click on the Support the Show tab and buy a t-shirt, or before you go shopping to Amazon, click on the Amazon link in the show notes, because that will just let them know that we sent you and the show gets a commission. Really simple. Now, if you can't support the show financially, don't worry about that, man. I get it. But here's how you can help the show. Go over to the website, inmygrow.com, and subscribe to the website. Subscribe to the podcast either on Stitcher or Spotify, and then subscribe to the YouTube channel also. And after you do all that, tell 3 other people about the show. Really simple. All right, like I said, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. I love you all very much. And remember to always grow, learn, and teach.